It is time to do a very quick reading wrap up for December of 2025. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is going to be, like I said, just a quick wrap up of the rest of the books that I read in 2025. So we've got 5 to talk about today. These are things that I might have started in November, but they carried over, so I ended up completing a total of 5 things in that month. The first one that I'll talk about is Wuthering Heights. This was such an interesting experience for me. I picked this up because I've been curious about it for a while. There is an adaptation coming out in 2026 with Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie, and it's been penned as a love story. And I wasn't sure that it was a love story, and I'd had some pretty good experiences with classics throughout 2025 thus far. So I was like, you know what? It's available in the library. I'll give it a go. And what was so interesting about this one is it's not, first and foremost, not a love story. It is a tale of this awful, obsessive human being and the object of his obsession, in my opinion. So we're following Heathcliff largely, and the characters around Heathcliff as he goes through his life. We start with him quite young, and we sort of grow with him and see him in various stages of his life, and also various stages of his obsession with Catherine. What's so interesting about this book is no one is likable. 0% of the characters are enjoyable as human beings. And I felt this way. It's beautifully written. I can't fault Emily Bronte for not creating an intriguing tale, because even though these people are awful, what are they going to do next? What could possibly be these conversations that they're having with each other, and they're just not walking away from it? Why are they trapped, it almost seems, within this little bubble of one another, with the houses that they're in quite close proximity, and they just can't let each other go in some way, shape or form. But no one in these books are likable. But what really struck me here, away from elegant prose, away from this captivating obsession which gripped me as a reader, was that I didn't like anyone. I did not like any of these characters up until, I didn't like them objectively throughout the whole thing, but up until 90%, I was like, why don't you just leave? Why are you staying in these situations? Why am I continuing to, my nose is itchy, I apologize. And I'm in it, and I just want to know what's going to happen. But what Bronte did was, in that last 10%, I started feeling things for Heathcliff, and I was like, how have you done that? How have you written this in a way where we understand that this guy is not a nice human being? He is awful. He has opportunity to grow, and he just doesn't take it. He really digs his heels in with the way that he acts and operates with the people around him. And there are people around him who are like, oh, he is this way, and he doesn't really offer much of an explanation. We do see a little bit more as he sort of grows up why some of the traits come through, but people still tolerate him. And then in the last 10% of this book, I was also feeling for this guy, and I do not know how Emily Bronte sucked me into it. So if somebody knows, has studied Wuthering Heights, is willing to talk to me about this way that I've just been sucked in with the rest of the world to this guy who is not great, but really feeling for him at the end, I thought it was an amazing experience, an intense experience, but amazing, and one that I've never had reading a book before, where I was just not necessarily my mind didn't change about the characters or the story, but I was like, oh, somehow I now feel things, and I don't know how that happened. It was interesting for the first read of the month. Then I picked up a cyberpunk turned horror book called Run Like Hell by Ira Brandt. This was, the title is very apt. It is one of the fastest paced books I think I've ever read. We start in a very sort of cyberpunk-esque feeling city. It feels very neon, it feels kind of grungy, and we're following a runner who is down on their luck. Not a credit to their name. They're living inside of a wall of a club situation, and as they're going about their day and they're trying to scrape up work, they come across an old friend of theirs who is also running and seems to be in quite a bit of danger. And the person that we're following gets involved in the job that I'm trying not to give spoilers away, so I'm being intentionally vague here. Get involved in the job that they've seen their friend do, and it ends up being way bigger than they anticipated. So they were trying to help them get out of a bad situation and ends up getting involved in it. What unravels here moves further and further away from cyberpunk the more you read into the book. So it starts very sort of comforting cyberpunk, we've got those vibes, and it ends up being like this violent body horror-esque thriller. It is so dangerous. The stakes are super high, and it kept me on the edge of the seat right until the last chapter. There were some things in here that I didn't love, but at the same time, a lot of experimentation from the author, which I did appreciate. So I'm interested in reading something else by her if there's something that comes out in the future. So it was interesting. I naturally gravitate towards a slower story as well, which I think, this wasn't slow. It was very, very fast paced, but it got my attention of the author's ability to tell an intriguing story and just playing around with genre. I also really liked some of the conversations we had in here about trans allegory. So, that was also quite good. Then moving on, I read a book called The Tiger's Daughter, and this was my book of the month. I'm hoping to write a review for it so I can get one of those out. It'll probably be early February. Who am I kidding? And this is by Kay Arsenault Rivera. This was a 5-star read for me. I'd heard mixed things about this book, and I'm so glad that I picked it up. I will say I have since, in January, read book 2, and I do not like book 2 nearly as much. I will finish the series because there's only 3 books, but this was 5-star. Book 2 ended up being about 2.5 star for me, and I'll go into more sort of why that was when I do the January wrap-up. This follows 2 ladies. So we have Oshizuka and Shifali, who the story's being told in retrospect by Shifali. So they've grown up together. They have been likened to 2 pine needles on the forehead. It was like a symbol when they were growing up. So they've known each other since they were girls. And we're getting the story in retrospect from Shifali's character, who they're now much older, and she's sort of writing her a letter. And we're following Oshizuka, who is now a princess, as she reads the letter. And it is the story of these 2 women as young girls to the point where they end up having to split. It was a grand adventure. It is a sapphic romance, which was just delightful. This is a storytelling style which I personally love. I do love a story told in retrospect, and the way that it was set up and the setting in the book, the way it was laid out, words, was quite unique. So it doesn't follow a linear timeline. It doesn't follow like chapter 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's almost as if we get chapters and then the interludes. So the chapters that we get were from Oshizuka's point of view, and the main story is actually told in this series of letters that Oshizuka is reading. So I thought it was really unique, and it just says even gods can be slain. But this was certainly a good example of book 1 that I want to have on my shelf and read time and time again, but I don't necessarily need a whole series for what I enjoy. But I did have a really good time with this one, and I sort of urge more people to give book 1 a chance if you don't go on to the rest of the series. That's completely fine. I'll read the 3rd one and I'll see what I think about it, but also just bingeable as well. I think if you are looking for something that has a bit of a K-pop Demon Hunters vibe, this is pretty close to that. So that, I had a lot of fun with that one. Then I picked up my first manga. Have I read manga on here before? I read Gyo earlier in the year, but Ryan gifted me this copy of Beserk. You can see a little where the sticker was, for, I think it was my birthday, and it's got the first 3 volumes in it. So I said, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. So I read volume 1. I don't know that manga is ever going to be my cup of tea. Like, it's not going to be something that I gravitate towards. It's violent and interesting. I am going to read the volume 2 and 3 just to see if there's any more of a story, but thus far we basically get the idea that we're following a berserker, and he is often told to kill things, and he kills things. That's pretty much what I got from the first volume. Artwork is really cool, so I am enjoying that aspect of it, but I don't know that there's much of a story here yet that I've uncovered, but people seem to love it. So I will give it at least the first 3 volumes and see how I'm feeling on it. And the last one that I have to talk about is a series concluder called Level Apocalypse by David Dalglish. This was the end of his Level Unknown series, and I had a really good time with this one. I think I gave this one about 4 stars as well. Now, this is a last book in a series, so I can't give too much away here without spoilers, but we are returning to the world of Yensia, which we get thrown into right away from book 1, and the events are coming to a conclusion. What I will say about this series ender is I appreciated how much depth we actually got with one of our characters. There's a sentient sword character called Sorrow, and we got to get his backstory while building up to this epic battle conclusion that we got in the series. And that was really well done. I quite appreciated how much depth we got for a book 3 as we were building up to the conclusion of the series. Now, I think David Dalglish has come out and said there could potentially be another series in this world if there is enough interest. There's not a great deal of reviews on this particular series. I think it's been swept quite under the rug because David Dalglish has had quite a lot of popular series come out in recent years. But I, for one, would really like to see another series set in the world of Yensia, or even a parallel world or something like that, which I think would be really cool. And it absolutely has set itself up to have a continuation of the world, the wider world. So I hope more people give this one a go. This is a really good series if you're looking to start a literary RPG journey or just sort of dip your toes into a lit RPG world. If you're not into game lit, you're not going to like it. It's got things like stats and things like that in it, but the world building and questing, it's very game lit coded, but I think that's the point, and I had a pretty good time with it. So those were the things that I read in the month of December. What did you pick up? What was your favourite book that you read in the month? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like the content, give one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.